Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show. I want to welcome back my good pal Travis, Mr. Oddfellow's Thoughts. Hey, Travis.
Hey,
How you doing?
not too bad. Winter sucks, but other than that,
I was just
we're
going to
good.
ask you because Travis and I live, about 40 minutes, 45 minutes away from each other.
Uh,
And Travis lives in a valley area, and I live at a higher altitude. And I've been getting a ton of snow lately here in the month of December, and now it's January as we record this. But I know that Travis is also getting a bunch of snow, which is really unusual for where you live, isn't it?
Right. I mean, the advantage to where I'm at, you get that one cute little skift of snow. So you go, oh, look, it's snow. It's pretty. And it's done. Then there's no more for the year. Whereas, yeah, there's been weeks of it,
Yeah. See,
kind of thing.
that's a thing where that's the one thing about living in the valley as I used to that I really liked. We didn't get that much snow, and now that's just blown out of the water. So I have even more incentive never to come back.
Yeah, this is that kind of once every 10-year kind of
Yeah,
a thing,
yeah,
though.
that's
It'll
true.
be forever
I don't
before it
know,
happens again.
but don't you
So
remember when we were kids? I seen maybe
there
I'm
was a
just
lot more snow.
yeah,
There
wasn't
was a
there?
lot more snow. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
There was.
yeah. There is global
There
warming,
was.
kids. There really is.
Climate
Anyway,
change, it's
climate change,
real.
yes.
It's real.
Anyway, um, anyway, so we're not here to talk about snow, icky snow, or climate change. What we are here to talk about today, I'm very excited to do this with Travis. We're going to talk about the Young Animal imprint from DC Comics, the curated books from Mr. Gerard Way. That was announced at the 2016 Emerald City Comic Con. I was there, Travis. I was in the room when Gerard Way came in and did this surprise announcement because that's how they referred to it in some of the press that DC put out at that time. And he walked in. They talked about him. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking Gerard Way, Gerard Way. I recognize that name, but I could not place it. I was trying to think what I know. I've read something of Gerard Way's, but I could not remember it. It was the Umbrella Academy,
Yep.
of which you gave me those two trades
Yeah.
many years ago. So I appreciate that. Thank you again.
Yeah.
But what I did not know, because I had messaged you or over Twitter, I can't remember what it was.
Oh yeah, because I'm half a block away. 'Cause
Yeah.
that was the first day of the con, and I was traveling that day, but I was already there. I just didn't have tickets for the first day. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You
Yeah.
you weren't even there.
So I'm sitting in my hotel a half a block away.
Oh man. And so yeah,
Could you hear my teenage daughter screaming from there? Ah!
yeah. So and explain why, because Gerard Way is who?
The lead singer, songwriter, whatever for My Chemical Romance.
Yes.
Which is where my daughter
Which
goes.
I had no idea.
Yeah.
which just goes to explain how old and uninformed I am. So, but what he has done is I don't know what the deal was or really what the backstory is. I don't know. Did DC come to him, or I think he came to DC and said, "Hey, I want to do some books," right?
Yes. Yeah. Because he was an intern way back in the day.
Oh, he was.
Yeah, he was an intern for DC way back in the day. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
I really don't know anything about comics.
And I guess he, knows Dan DiDio on first name basis and
Well,
whatnot.
Don't we all know Dan on a first name basis?
Well, we do, but I don't know that he knows me. I talk about him lovingly, but I don't know that he knows me. Yeah, I mean, and so he always has kind of had the bite for wanting to do comic books. So it just happened to be that as he was finishing up his internship, I guess he was looking at doing toys and that sort of stuff was the career move he was looking at going into. And the whole music thing took off. The band that he was hanging out with at the time suddenly exploded. And clearly you go with where that kind of thing is at, I guess. And so he's done that thing. And now he's going back to the stuff that he originally, had contemplated doing. So, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's cool from that aspect is the fact that, he's somebody that had, he saw how the soup was made kind of a thing, back in the day when he was an intern, and still foolishly wants to make comics and, and as a fan. So I those things all can work out if you have the skills to do it. So
yeah. I what I do remember though from his appearance at that panel at Emerald City Comic Con was the buzz in the room when he walked in. You know, and like I said, I'm sitting there going,
yeah,
who's this guy?
yeah.
And then they introduce him and talk and explain all that stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay, so he's this singer guy coming to do comics. How many times have we heard that? Right, but
Well, sure.
But they once they started talking about what they were going to do, I'm like, oh, okay, this is interesting. And so what I'm going to do here is, let me first explain. I got some things to read to you and to the audience, but they're bringing back some of the Vertigo books from the '90s, essentially, and then a couple newish ideas in the vein of the '90s Vertigo books, late '80s, '90s Vertigo books. Would you agree with that assessment?
Yeah.
Okay. So what they talked about was there are 4 books in this imprint, and Young Animal is an imprint of DC Comics. It's not part of Vertigo, even though it's channeling that Vertigo vibe, that old Vertigo vibe. And those books are Doom Patrol. Cave Carson Has a Cybernetic Eye, which is I love that title just because it's really long and kooky. Shade the Changing Girl, as opposed to Shade the Changing Man. And then Mother Panic, which I mistakenly referred to in one tweet months ago as Mother Mayhem for some reason.
Different character.
Yeah. Okay, so those 4 books, and Gerard Way was going to write at least. Well, originally he was going to be writing 2 of them or co-writing 2 of them, and I think that changed over time. I'll list off the collaborators for each book as we get to them. But he's definitely writing Doom Patrol, which I think is a very big deal, especially I know for you, Travis, because you're a huge Doom Patrol fan.
Yeah.
So you've got, I know you do you have all published issues of Doom Patrol?
Yes. Going
all the way back?
All the way back.
And that concept started in what year? Do you remember?
60. I want to say 4.
That's what I was thinking too, but
yeah, I'm not good with those kinds of numbers.
Right, and like we don't have Wikipedia or Google at our fingertips at the moment. But,
right,
but
right.
No, we're not going to do that.
Nope. Yeah, I have all. Yeah, I wouldn't say that I literally have every comic book that Doom Patrol's ever been in, but I have everything properly titled as Doom Patrol. And I have all of the My Greatest Adventures that had Doom Patrol in it, because Doom Patrol started out as My Greatest Adventure for a few issues before it actually took over the title. So yeah.
Okay,
I'm cool. A little bit of a fan, a little bit,
just a tiny bit. So, and we'll talk. I want to talk more about that, especially in relation to Doom Patrol, because as we will talk about, Travis read a few of these books back then for longer than I did, so he has more of a history, more of a context that he may be able to provide in relation to these new ones. We shall see.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we got these 4 books. Gerard Way has curated them. Did he handpick the creators, or did he work with DC to do that? Do you know that?
I don't know.
Okay,
that would have been like a top question to ask him, because I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I guess I should have, because I just thought of that as I was talking here. I guess I should have looked that up to see.
The whole thing was a Shelley Bond thing.
That's right.
The original work was done with her. I mean, I had heard rumors that we were going to see some of these books, but I had heard, of course, it was under the Vertigo line, because Shelley Bond at the time was still working for Vertigo and DC, and that's why I was surprised to hear the announcements come out of Emerald City Comic Con that they're doing a completely different imprint, instead of putting him under the Vertigo line. But she was still, because she was there, right? She was there.
She was. Yeah. She did a lot of the introduction, a lot of the promotion. Even okay. So I remember this distinctly too, because so she's there. She's helping with the introduction of this. After the con was over, she was doing some promotion on Twitter, because I follow her. And then we got the news that that she would no longer be with Vertigo
Right.
at all, right? And I thought, whoa, that's not cool.
Right. Not with Vertigo that she's not going to work for DC.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
she's credited as the editor in the first couple
Yes.
issues at
Yes.
least.
And I noticed, I think it was in Mother Panic #2, I want to say. I'm gonna look that up real quick as I'm saying this. I think there's something in here about no, it's not that one. It's one of the other books where basically there was a special thanks to Shelley Bond.
Right.
I don't remember which one now, but I did, just because I looked, just to reiterate the point. It's here on Mother Panic #2, page 1, where the credits are. It says DC's Young Animal, curated by Gerard Way.
Yeah.
So, and it does say Mother Panic created by Gerard Way, and then the other folks. So, I didn't notice. Okay, well we'll get to that. I want to skip ahead here. First, let me just read the text from the DC Comics webpage about the announcement, Young Animal. So this is a quote: "I am thrilled to help bring DC's Young Animal to life." This is Gerard Way. Having been raised on experimental 80s and 90s takes on superheroes, I see Young Animal as a place to try new ideas, following the spirit of those books from the past, but bring them somewhere else, he said. And that's going to be important here for our talk, because I want to come back to that idea. I see it as an imprint where we can explore fine art, bold concepts, mature themes, and strangeness with lots of heart. And that was from Gerard Way. And then on top of that, we're excited about Gerard's vision for DC's Young Animal, explained DC Entertainment co-publishers Dan DiDio and Jim Lee. It's amazing they can talk at the same time like that.
Yeah.
Giving DC Comics characters different story tones and distinct art styles will result in a different look and feel for the line. Okay, so let's, Travis, any thoughts on that stuff there?
Sounds good, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It makes you very excited for it, doesn't it?
It gives me warm and fuzzy feelings.
But I definitely want to come back to that, because I want to see how well they've done. So just to explain, at this point, at the time of this recording, I have read 3 issues each of Doom Patrol, Cave Carson, Shade, and 2 issues of Mother Panic. And I think Travis is in the same boat, even though I think he has issue 4 of some of these books.
Right, I just haven't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just got them this week. I haven't actually.
Right, and mine come next week, or start coming next week. So so keep that in mind. We're talking about Young Animal and its first 3-ish issues, and how it compares to the hype, I guess. So first up, let's talk about Doom Patrol, because it's kind of the signature book. I mean, it's the first book that came out in the line, and it's got that history, as you well know, and it seems to be, I would say, a fan favorite.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, of this group of books, yeah. For sure.
Yeah. Okay. So Doom Patrol is by Gerard Way, Nick Darrington, Tamra Bonvillain. I hope that's how that last name is pronounced, and Todd Klein. So those are the folks working on Doom Patrol. And so Doom Patrol, again, this is from the press release. In the spirit of Grant Morrison's legendary run on the series, along with other classic incarnations of the characters, writer Gerard Way and artist Nick Darrington will put their unique stamp on the world's strangest heroes, taking on the universe's strangest villains. Okay. So, Travis, how does... Well, first of all, what is your, one-paragraph assessment of this version of Doom Patrol?
I love this book. I mean, hair stood on end getting to read the book and whatnot, because I'm a Doom Patrol fan, and because I actually really like the issue, because it is kind of... I think this issue embraces most of what Gerard Way's statement is for his mission statement. Does the book continue to that? That's maybe up for debate. But to me, it feels like this first issue embraces all that stuff that he talked about for it. Now, how does it stand up as a Doom Patrol book? I mean, I think it does, but it's different. It's different.
No, wait. When you say a Doom Patrol book, are you referring to the Grant Morrison? And you
Oh,
have to
I mean Doom
just in
Patrol in
general,
general.
just the
Yes.
concept. Okay.
Right. Because at this point, I mean, Doom Patrol is a group of superheroes. I mean, they originally were a group of superheroes. I mean, they have all these problems. They have this dark history of how they're created and stuff. But they actually, I mean, the original crew actually went out and fought supervillains. It had other weird stuff going on with them. They always have. And we haven't really seen that as of yet. How many issues are we going to get into before they're a quote unquote team, moving against whatever, evil machinations are out there and whatnot. It's closer to Grant's work than anything else as far as that goes. But to me, it's different. It's different. Loosely attached to the Grant Morrison stuff in the sense that it gets farther out there, and in the fact that the original stuff is more straightforward. The last run of Doom Patrol is more straightforward. But it still embraces what Doom Patrol is, in that there's always this odd stuff going on. There's always their personal lives are train wrecks, just kind of odd stuff beyond the normal everyday life problems that people have. Their problems are always magnified in some fashion or another. So yeah, I mean, for me, it fits in the Doom Patrol vein as far as that goes. But to me, it's the one element it's missing is the where I think we've been introduced to the bad guys, but where's the fight come? Where's the us against them? The getting the crew together is taking a long time, and I say that, but I'm not complaining about it. It can take as long as it wants to. I'm along for the ride.
Okay, so let's back up just a bit and explain who some of the characters are in this version of Doom Patrol. Mm-hmm. First of all, we're introduced to what I would say right now is the lead character of Casey Brink.
Yep. And
she is an EMT, and she has her partner. Oh gosh, I've forgotten his name. Anyway, it doesn't matter. She has this partner whom I really like, actually. He's a nice foil to Casey. So you got Casey, and then Robot Man shows up, mm-hmm. and in the first issue I'm talking about. And Niles Calder is there.
Love the bits with him.
Oh God. Okay. You and I are gonna have.
Oh, that's cool.
Disagreements. And then the Terry Nunn is a character that shows up towards the end of the book. So that's basically kind of the main characters of that first issue.
Danny's there too.
Oh, duh! I'm so sorry. Yes, of course, Danny the Street.
Right.
But now wait. Is there actually a reference to Danny in here? I forgot now.
Well, there's the guy throwing all the bricks. There's a guy throwing all the bricks. That's Ricardo from Long Island.
Yes.
Which all of this stuff is winks and nods at a ton of stuff.
Okay, and that's what I wanted to ask you about, because so when I was first reading this, I was thinking, well, is Casey Brink a character that was in the previous version?
Not to the best. I mean, if it is, somehow I missed that.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think this is a totally new character. But then so I wanted to ask you these things. So these are questions that, as I was reading the book, I was writing down, and specifically to ask you.
We'll see if I can.
Is there a significance to that video game that Casey is playing later on or earlier in the issue? It's called Galactic Matador, I think.
Not to the best of my knowledge, but I mean, it is. It's Galactic Matador. I don't think so. But see, here's the thing: I own all this stuff, and I've read it all. I have read it all. The most current stuff I've read is the stuff from the '60s. I think the last time I read the Grant Morrison run was the beginning of 2000. So it's been right. I
What?
know.
You don't have
So
a
it's
memory like a steel trap?
I don't anymore. You can't see on the podcast, but these gray hairs, I don't know. So no, I don't. You, I'm sure there is tons more stuff in there that I'm even missing. Makes me want to go back and read that stuff
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
So I will be doing so. But yeah, no, I mean, the video game I'm not aware of. But yes, well, Danny's in it because we don't
You're
know
right.
Danny's in it, but Danny is in the first issue.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
don't know that. We don't know that, but he is because we find that out later on in
Yeah.
later issues.
Because Danny is the voice on the ambulance radio, right? At first.
Yes.
Why?
Yeah.
I wonder. It's curious because Danny says you can call me M. I'm
Yeah.
your new voice from beyond. You can call me M. I'm like, why? What is that? So I immediately go to. I know this is probably has no connection whatsoever, but I immediately go to Wizard of Oz, right? Auntie M.
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to think of if there's any other kind of M characters out there. Anyway, I find that curious. Why not just say I'm Danny? Because Casey doesn't know that her partner doesn't know who Danny the Street is. Sam, his name is Sam.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I just thought that was curious. But okay, so there's that. And then there was the text from the game, which why include that if it doesn't have some sort of significance? Because it seems to be kind of like the response in the game that Casey is seeing as she's playing the game, and it says danger, space case, hex bat, neutralize. And so I wonder, vector damage critical, space case, and so I'm wondering what is this? Does it have to do with those with the bad guys, the red kind of crystal looking dudes?
The meat, the guys that talk about the meat and stuff.
Yeah. Which Goobfubers? Is that? As you know, Goobfubers. Oh, so Goobfubers is the name of the company who wants to introduce an all new mentally healthy meat menu, and they want to make Danny the Street produce that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, well, I want to come back to the bad guys of the book because that's another topic. But there's a mention of Fantahawks. Is that anything to you?
That doesn't ring a bell.
Okay.
No.
And then at one point, somebody. Hold on. I should have prepared better. Oh yeah. Okay. So there's that scene where Sam is eating the gyro. And then he tosses the gyro into the garbage.
Yes.
And before the garbage can explodes in this nuclear blast type thing, we go into the world of the gyro.
Yes.
And because Sam is talking about how, he says, look at this gyro, a beautiful, colorful, multi-layered spiral. It's got texture and man's influence on nature and society. We think we know this gyro, but we don't know everything. What's going on in there? Endless possibilities, good versus evil, and then suddenly we're transported into supposedly the world of the gyro, where we first encounter Robot Man. Mm. But there's a panel here where we see a fly land on the gyro that Sam threw away, which also was weird to me because he was extolling the virtues of gyros. And he says this is what makes basically his job worth it is being able to eat these gyros, and then he throws most of it away, which I thought was weird. But I know maybe this is just supposedly how a fly sounds, but it's repeated in several panels, and so I was thinking, well, what's the significance of this? Because it's Roem Wad. And I'm thinking, what does that mean? Any ideas?
The fly sound?
Is that what that's supposed to be, or is it supposed to be something more than just a fly sound?
See, I don't know that that's a fly sound.
Well,
I think I don't know if that is part of the because the fly sound to me is that graphic that shows just the fly. That bzz, I'm assuming that's the fly sound. But because towards the beginning of the book, when you get your first, where is it at? I guess we don't get it yet. But that To me, I assumed that the fly sound. I don't know that I had that broom lot. I don't know. I almost took that as being those guys that are marching along are like monks, and
And they're
they're
saying
chanting
this,
that.
right? Yeah.
That's what I
Okay.
thought. I didn't think that it was the bee thing. Then you get to the guys that are, that are like in the city pointing at the screen, and one of them has the word balloon, and it's just got a fly inside of it,
Yeah.
which I'm assuming he's the one that's buzzing. And then because that fly sound then crops up later on
Yes.
when Niles Calder is playing some
Right.
tunes.
Right. Okay. So I thought of that too. That this is some sort of chant thing. But the problem with it is that we get several more panels with these characters, and there's the only dialogue is Cliff talking, and then there's these. I presume this is Danny trying to reach Cliff or talking with him, because there's these dark panels showing this subway car. It looks like.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So, what the heck? And then there's this room full of thermonuclear weapons, and somebody hits the launch. Oh, that Cliff hits the launch
That's
button,
Cliff.
and then that's when the trash can explodes on the next
Exactly.
page. And then Casey goes, "Wow."
Well, because Casey isn't just some girl that
But we don't know that yet.
Well, yeah, you can't just roll with it.
That was one of my biggest problems with, not problem, curious aspects of this book to me was how, because something else happens later in the issue where people, Casey especially, just kind of goes with the flow, and
Yeah.
you're like, what the heck? But as we learn later in issues 2 and 3, we know why maybe Casey would respond that way. But for Sam to respond that way too is like, this is really curious.
No, he's very zen. The whole
Come on.
universe. He's very
I
zen.
don't care how zen you are. When the trash can that you just to which you just threw your euro explodes,
He
next
doesn't
to
have
you,
he doesn't have time to freak out about that, because then he gets the call and
Oh,
they got to go
geez.
save somebody.
Whatever.
I loved it.
Okay.
I love the transitions between things. I was all for it.
Yeah, and you mentioned Ricardo earlier from Oolong Island, which I love that reference.
Mhm.
And I wanted to ask you about that too. Is there a strong connection to Oolong Island with the Doom Patrol?
Yeah, they actually lived on Oolong Island.
Okay.
For the Keith Giffen written run of it, they hang out most of the time on Oolong Island.
Okay, that makes sense. And Ricardo is an existing character?
Yeah, he's a psychologist.
Okay,
He was like the team psychologist.
got it.
Thing.
And in
Did
this
an
scene,
awful job.
well, considering the people he's
Right.
working with.
Right.
Anyway, so this is the scene that, or the scene that you referenced earlier, where Ricardo is tossing bricks looking for Danny.
Right.
And it looks like Ricardo's had seen some better days.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
All right, and then like I said, we're probably going to talk a lot about issue 1 for all these books more than the others, but okay. So then the next scene is this interlude with Niles Calder, which is called "What's Going On with Niles Calder," and he's playing around with a keyboard.
Bunch of keyboards. Yeah.
Yeah. He's got some keyboards and a soundboard. It looks like. And he's pressing them, and then he presses one, and it makes that fly sound with the icon of the fly, just like the character or the soldier in the Euro made or said earlier in the book. And then Niles just looks at you with this boyish grin on his face.
Very pleased. And then that's it.
That's it. And you like that?
I love it.
Oh my God.
I love it because it's extremely random, and I'm okay with that.
Okay.
Because
yeah, go ahead.
I guess I trust that I'm willing to trust the creators that this is all going to come together in some sense, or it's just going to be some random piece of something. This is what's going on with Niles. These are the things that he is doing, and I'm okay with that.
You're okay with randomness for randomness' sake.
Yes.
Ugh.
It's called art.
Oh my God. Okay, so As you might surmise, I have a little problem with this.
Sure.
But it's too soon. It's too soon for me to really judge it. Right now, I'm going. I don't know about the weirdness for weirdness sake thing. That's how I was thinking of it as I was taking notes for these books. And I know, because Wei said that he wants to explore strangeness with lots of heart, right? So I have to accept that to a certain degree and not judge it until I feel like I can, and I don't feel like I'm there yet. But right now, it's just being weird just to be weird. And is that Doom Patrol?
Well, I know. I don't. I mean, yes and no. I mean, there's stuff that's just. I mean, all the weird stuff that's in it. Is there a reason it has to be weird? No. Other than that's how the story has always been told. Mm-hmm. Clearly in the 60s they did not have anything that was like this, where it's just kind of randomness and whatnot. There wasn't space for that. Quite frankly, there wasn't anything like that in the Morrison run either. It all tied up.
Okay.
If you were willing to read it and think about it and read it again, it all ties up in some sense. There wasn't just crap thrown in for the sheer sake of.
Yeah, that's typical Morrison.
Right. Yes, definitely, kind of a thing. So if you don't like Morrison, there's a bunch of weird crap in there that there's no reason for it to be. I mean, that's part of Doom Patrol, is the fact that they are strange, it is weird, and there's that weird stuff goes on, in it and stuff. I don't know. And here's the thing is of course, I'm reading this like I said, as a big Doom Patrol fan. And I don't know how much of stuff that gets thrown in here, how much of that is just to amuse me, not me personally, but me as in the greater.
Right.
Look, we don't necessarily want to put the Chief in the book in the same sense that other people have used him throughout the years. But wouldn't it be fun to just kind of have him off? What is, to answer the question, what is he doing? And this is just kind of a way to go, oh, look, he's over here doing this time. And yes.
No.
And as a short time reader, somebody who hasn't read any of the stuff, then that has zero interest for you. Whereas to me, it's amusing as hell.
Yeah, I totally get how amusing it is. It's just when you're trying to develop a narrative structure for these characters, and this the overarching storyline, to have these off the wall Niles Calder jokes. I don't know what, like you said, it, like with Morrison, it has to tie together. There has to be a payoff there. Otherwise, it's just crap on the page. And I don't mean crap like it's bad. It's just, it's just random stuff on the page that has no connection to the rest of the story. So what's the point?
And my retort back to that would be what's the point of a lot of the stuff then? I mean, is how I look at it. It's like I said,
okay.
And like I said, it may be one of those things as a greater fan of the thing, it's got a bigger payoff for me than it does for you.
Yeah.
Well, short term and or long term. I mean, for me, short term, I laugh my ass off just because this is a guy who's normally, is depicted as being somebody who's kind of up to no good in the process of being a good guy. He's also not a good guy. I mean, he is the consummate, evil scientist using evil scientist type stuff, supposedly for the greater good, but questionably lots of times as far as these personal characters go. So to have him just messing around with the keyboard and soundboard and making notes and then a buzzing sound and then being amused with himself, I find very funny. So
okay. Well, no, what you bring up is a good point. Is how do these things affect the existing fans of Morrison's and Morrison and companies? They all talk about Grant Morrison like he created the book from nothing. So there's a lot of other people involved in that book besides Grant Morrison.
Right.
But for shorthand, Morrison and Company. Oh crap! I don't remember where I was going with that. But what was I saying? So
well, how much of it is a wink and nod to those of us that are?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
sure.
And I get that.
Right.
And so I'm coming at it from an interesting perspective because I've read very little of the Morrison and Company's Doom Patrol from that time period. I have a couple of the trade collections that DC's been putting out recently, and I plan to get all of the issues of that Morrison and Company's run just to read them, because I know you love them. I know you're a big fan, and you rarely steer me wrong in terms of good comics. So
this might be one.
But I was trying to think. I don't think you ever have, Travis. But so yeah, for me, it's a really curious thing because I'm coming at it basically from an outsider's perspective and going, I see that there's in jokes here, or I think they're in jokes here, and they're not working for me right now.
Right, and I totally get that. I mean, like I said, if I look at it from a totally new reader who doesn't have any of that, knowledge and whatnot, there's stuff here that's like, okay, so, and I get that, and that certainly could be one, unless of course issues down the road, these little interstitials we're getting of Niles pay off for something else. I totally get that that's what they are, that they're completely meaningless to the reader who does not know who that guy is.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about Doom Patrol, that page is okay. That's just strange. Why is that there? That broke the story, and why did it? And the way this issue is written, I've had plenty of discussions with people about the fact that they don't like the way it was written because it hops around the way it does, and they don't feel like it's cohesive in any way. And I think it is.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that either.
Yeah.
I mean, if you read enough Vertigo books from the '90s, you got sensitized to that. So
yeah. So like I said, so that's, I mean, I totally get from what you're saying about the fact is that just it being there for what it is. But I mean, just me personally, I think that even if I didn't know anything about these characters, and lots of the characters here I don't know anything about, to be quite honest, I would still like it because I just like weird, quirky books anyway. So that, to me, I would look at that and go, oh, that was strange. I kind of like that, and I'd go on, and it wouldn't bother me. So
yeah. Well, I think that perhaps a saving grace to this is that it occurs in the subsequent issues as well. It's not just a one-off joke in issue 1 and that's it. Yeah. So at least there's narrative connections between the issues for that weird Niles Calder stuff. Okay, there's a few more things I want to get to about stuff that's introduced in this issue, and then we can move on. So let's just briefly talk about the villain of the story, which appears to be this otherworldly, other dimensional aliens who want to open up a new franchise and sell basically burgers to clientele. And they need Danny the Street to do it cheaply, and that's basically it, right?
Yeah,
because they're going to call it Danny. They're going to open up a chain call it Danny Burgers. Mm-hmm. What do you make
I don't
of these
know.
guys?
I don't know. I mean, this is the part of the book I'm like, okay, this guy. This is, and if there is, old Doom Patrol reference in this, it's stuff that I don't remember. As far as that whole goes. I mean, I'm interested. I mean, I think it's, I don't know, some sort of corporate, intergalactic, diabolical something, clearly. And just the way they refer to the meat as opposed to, it makes it sound sinister, doesn't it? As opposed to if they called it a product or they called it any other things.
Well, and so, not only that, but they call it stress-free meat.
Right.
What the heck does that mean?
Right. I don't know. I mean, it's all new mentally healthy meat menu. Yeah. Yeah, the really big campaign. So, are they going to eat Danny? I mean, is that what they're?
Well, no. So they refer to Danny. The agents, their agents, have discovered the existence of a sentient organic generator sprawl. The sprawl is capable of creating and sustaining life due to some kind of spike of it in its energy factors.
But that's Danny.
Yes.
I mean, is it Danny is producing himself? I mean, that's everything.
Sure.
Everything is kind of Danny. So it would literally be Danny burgers would literally be
Be
eating
Danny. Yeah.
a product of Danny.
You're right. From that perspective, you're totally right. Yeah.
Yeah.
What he produces is not separate from him. It is of him.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Which is creepy in its own right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like the visual look of the like the kind of like the crystalline looking aliens. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird, it's a weird take on or criticism of corporate culture, perhaps.
Culture. That's what I took it as being kind of the man.
I know, and it seems really, late 90s, early 2000s kind of a villain. But it's not that it's not a pertinent thing today. It just seems kind of dated to me a little bit. The other thing I want to get to. So here is the introduction of Terry Nunn, the other female character in the book. And so Casey's back home, and she's collected all of the pieces of Robot Man who got ran into by a big
garbage truck.
Yes. That's what it was. Yeah. And so Casey's got this big box of Robot Man parts, and her roommate is there. He's such an ass.
Yeah, he's just there to be a douchebag. I mean, clearly that's what he's about.
So, I guess what happens to him next, we feel satisfied because he's such an ass. So there's a knock at the door, and Terry Nunn is here, and she's doing a dancegram or whatever, which is really cute. And then she does the big finish, "Happy birthday, Casey Brink," and then all of a sudden, Casey's roommate blows up, and I thought, Travis, did he eat a gyro?
I didn't even think of that. That's funny.
And then, and then you turn the page, and it's this big splash page of Casey, and she's got roommate and meat and entrails all over her.
Well, no, there's no entrails. There's nowhere does it show entrails.
It's
confetti, and it looks like it looks like cotton candy or something.
I know, but it's from the guy.
Yeah, but
that has to be him.
Sure, it does. But who's to say that he exploded in blood and guts? That he didn't explode in?
Oh God. So nothing no character can necessarily be a human being and therefore be made of the same stuff that we are.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that doesn't mean that
you're right.
She blew him up, that she did not turn him into something else.
Well, no. See, okay, so you think from that scene that Terry Nunn blew that guy up, but she says, I've never had that happen before. Very interesting. So now that's not to say that she didn't do it and she's not aware of it, but it implies that she didn't have anything to do with it.
Exactly.
But okay, but we jumped ahead because there, like I said, there's that splash page of Casey there covered in goo. We'll just call it.
Yes.
And the cat, and they're both looking at Terry Nunn, and she goes, "But it's not my birthday." That's her reaction to her roommate blowing up.
Yes. Yes.
And then Terry's like, that never happened before.
Yeah. Yeah. Very interesting. And then it looks like he needed a new roommate. I just love how they roll with it.
Yeah, exactly.
These people are clearly crazy. They're clearly off their rocker.
Oh my God. Yeah. So now Terry becomes Casey's new roommate. And that's it. That's that. I guess that's one way to introduce a new character into the narrative as quickly as possible.
Yep.
Okay, and then the very end, we get these 2 pages, which obviously are very important. I would hope. So we go to this otherworldly thing. It looks vaguely Greek-ish, given the statues in the background there. But what it reminded me of, Travis, was the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, because you got this lion here, dead on these steps.
Of a throne.
Blood, there's a throne behind him. Blood's just pouring down the steps. There's all these look like light arrows in him. So I immediately thought of that movie or that book, that movie. But then the camera pulls back and you see more of the scene, and there's this superhero-like garbed character who looks like his head's been bashed in with a brick.
Right.
And the brick says, "I'm sorry." Well, we saw bricks earlier in the issue, and that was Ricardo looking for Danny. So is is that Danny? Is that a aspect of Danny? Is that part of Danny that's been used as this weapon, or?
I I would say so. I mean, because Danny in the Grant Morrison, I mean, he's a street. I mean, that's what he is. He's a cobblestone street. That's kind of what his thing was. Yeah, I looked over these last two pages a lot because it's such a change. The rest of the issue is it's all kooky, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
even though
Lighthearted
you know,
fun.
like I said, the guy blows up, but he blows up in confetti and kind of, I don't know, pink cotton candy looking stuff. It's all, and I mean, and their discussion about being roommates or not roommates reminds me of um, some, old British sitcom because it's just so absurd and just how they kind of, Monty Python-ish almost in how they're, well, do you need a roommate? Sure, kind of stuff. And then we get to these pages, the art feels a little different. It's got this very heavenly, pinks and reds to it and whatnot. You're right, that lion's laying there in a pool of blood with these kind of like, I don't know, glowing arrows that look like, clearly they're made of light. It's like something Apollo would shoot, or or heavenly archers.
Yeah.
If we were going to stick with the whole heaven hell.
Yes.
To me, the lion looks like it's wearing a cape because above the lion, it is
That's
actually
true.
draped. It's draped down. There's that spatter of blue beside it. You're kind of like, what's that about? You turn
sure.
the page, and of course, there's this guy who we would assume is a superhero because he's wearing boots, gloves.
He's got a cape too.
He's wearing his underwear on the outside of his pants, and he's got a cape himself, and he's the one that's been spurting blood, blue blood. It looks like it comes from the throne. There's that shattered window behind them, and that brick that's laying there, which suddenly, to me, the very end of the book puts this very serious thing.
Yeah,
down.
a very different tonal shift.
Right, everything else has been kind of slapstick in a sense. I mean, Cliff fighting his way out of the what we consider, we're assuming is the Euro universe, staggering out of the alley. You think there's going to be some big moment of him going, hey, or whatever, and he gets pasted by that garbage truck and it blows him into a million pieces. So he's, in a cardboard box and all the other kind of goofiness that goes on, throughout the thing. And then we get this moment that just feels very, complete total change.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which made me go, ooh, wow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and now that you mention, I just took that that red. I thought it was a curtain of some sort that's behind the lion, but maybe the lion is the partner or
right.
pet of this guy, and they've both been murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what the heck is this all about? So yes, when I got to this scene, I'm like, whoa, what is going on with this book? And of course, now I'm very intrigued. Going forward, what's going to happen here?
Mm-hmm.
So okay, so what do you think of that first issue, just in general?
I loved it.
After you read it, you were like, "This is exactly the Doom Patrol book I've been wanting to have," right?
No, well, see, no, because of all the Doom Patrol books that I've read in the past, and they all, in some sense, parts of them have been different than others. I was super excited because for me, pretty much everything in the book worked. It was off the wall, and I feel like I feel like it's been a while since there's been an off the wall book like this, kind of a thing. And I say that even though I read lots of image books and whatnot. I've read some books that are off the wall there, and they just don't end up ever working for me. This worked right off the bat, and I don't think it was just the fact that it's got Doom Patrol on it, because I mean, to me, it could have been called anything, and because there's so little, actual official Doom Patrol, Robot Man, Niles, briefly being in there, it's not like, the crew come running out in their old red and white suits and that sort of stuff. So yeah, I mean, I really liked it because it was so strange, and then ends on that kind of really kind of powerful note. It made me feel like, okay, there's going to be some just kind of crazy zany stuff go on here that I'm just going to laugh about, and it's just going to be kind of a riot. But clearly they have a plan for there to be some, heavyweight stuff kind of being slammed in there too. And that's kind of what made the Grant Morrison stuff enjoyable to me. Was you'd have these stuff that was just nuts. I mean, the fact that a character was a street alone at the time when that
Right.
book was coming out was just kind of bonkers in its own right. And then you'd have these extremely heavy things, around them and whatnot, which really kind of traditionally is, from my perspective of reading the Doom Patrol stuff, has always been the case. They're strange characters that came about in a very strange way, all of them, and they all have these kind of tragic moments about them all too, about why they are, near-death experiences or whatever that put them in the places that they are and stuff. And so it all kind of puts that all together. So was it the Doom Patrol book I was expecting? No, I don't know, because I don't know what I was expecting, to be quite honest. I just kind of went in going, yes, it's going to be whatever it's going to be. And very excited when I got done reading it, because it's quite a tonal change from the last at least 2 incarnations of Doom Patrol. Because the last 2 incarnations, they stayed a lot closer to, we're superheroes, we're doing superheroics, there's weird stuff around us. And this fell back to the, I don't like to keep referencing just the Grant Morrison stuff, because, Rachel Pollack after Grant Morrison continued on with even more bizarre type stuff. But I mean, he kind of changed the tone of it. And this is closer to that. But I also feel like it just embraces a lot of what old Vertigo is about too. This book and the way it was written and kind of the stuff about it. So,
Okay.
and all of that excites me, because I have nothing but good feelings about all that old stuff. for better or for worse, to go back and read it now, I don't know. But at the time it was coming out, and pre-Vertigo, all that stuff was awesome as far as I was concerned. So,
Okay. All right. So yeah, like I said, coming at this basically from an outsider's perspective, at least from the Morrison and Company's stuff. I mean, I know Doom Patrol, but
well, sure, they were in some of those Titan books, right?
that's right. That's probably my first introduction to who the Doom Patrol was, were those New Teen Titans issues. But I read this first issue, and I guess my first reactions were it's a very kinetic book. There's a lot of movement to it. It's fast paced in some places, some odd moments. We already talked about those. But my question at that point was: is it too clever and weird for its own good? But I really like Casey, and I like her partner Sam, and everything else is just kind of, I'm waiting to see what's going to happen. So that's issue 1. Okay, so we spent a lot of time on issue 1. I want to just briefly talk through issues 2 and 3, maybe highlight some things that we found interesting about those, and then move on to the next book. So issue 2, this is where we get Larry Traynor, the Negative Man, and he's a bit off his rocker, it looks like.
I love Larry. I've always liked Larry.
Yeah?
Yeah. And I love his introduction.
Yeah, I actually like that. In fact, my first reaction to this book is, from a narrative standpoint, this issue is a little more linear.
Yes.
In its presentation. Sure. So it was kind of a nice slight change of pace from that first issue. Even though we get "What Are You Doing Now?" is Calder again, with the weird mountain face actually reacting to Niles Calder. Which what the heck, Travis? Come on.
Oh, come on! It's fun. I don't have the issue in front of me, so I don't remember it exactly. So
yeah. Robot Man gets put back together, and then those same bad guys show up, and he defeats them, of course. But let's see here. I guess I found Larry very funny. I like his dialogue. I like his interactions with him. Danny makes contact with Casey, and towards the end of the issue, Casey goes into, where is it? Oh, she's in the ambulance, and all of a sudden the ambulance just kind of falls apart around her, and she's in this nightclub-looking setting. And guess who shows up in this empty nightclub setting? It's Flex Mentallo. The what was it? The International Man of Mystery or Muscle Mystery, or has something to do with Muscle Mystery.
Right.
And he basically says, "Yeah, I'm Flex Mentallo, Man of Muscle Mystery." That's what it is. And so he asks Casey, "Are you ready?" And she says, "For what?" And then he pulls, the curtains are pulled back, and he says, "For Dannyland." And then we get this kind of Disneyland-esque looking background.
Yeah.
And Danny the Street is there's a parade there, and there's a banner saying "Welcome back, Casey," and that's the end of the issue.
Right. Right. And then the next issue starts out with that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Exploring Dannyland.
I mean, that's basically the plot of this issue. There's not much to it really, other than that. The only other thing worth mentioning, I guess, is Casey in the first issue complained about having a toothache, and she actually pulls the tooth, and inside the tooth is this little rolled up piece of paper that says "Good job."
Yeah. Well, issue 2 isn't issue 2 because, like I said, I don't have it in front of me to go back to reference to, and 4 months and my brain gets mushy, I guess. Issue 2 isn't that it goes into much more detail about who Casey is, right? The fact that she's the daughter or something or other of a sprite of something. I mean, it goes into kind of gives us more of a background of who she is, doesn't it? Or who she thinks she is. Isn't that the issue that does that?
I don't know. I thought that was issue 3.
Is it issue 3? Okay.
I honestly don't remember right now.
Okay.
Because a lot of this just has to do with Robot Man fighting these bad guys, and then
right,
and Larry.
Oh, that's right. It really is that and Larry centric. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. I have to say I really like because it's not just the writing. Clearly, the art is a huge factor. In the book, and Nick Darrington's his art. I mean, because there was, that the whole Larry thing at the beginning and whatnot is so wonderfully done. The angles that it's drawn in, the close-ups and stuff. I just think that the artwork is so brilliant for the book too. I mean, it just really is.
Yeah, you mentioned, and for issue 1, you mentioned the colors. That's Tamara Bonvillain.
Yeah.
I think that has a lot to do with how much I appreciate or how much I like the art in this book. But yeah, I mean, I won't disparage Nick Darrington's efforts here. And I guess kind of on the tails of that, there's the scene very early on in the book where we meet Larry Trainer, but then there's these 2 characters that are just kind of thrown in.
Right.
One bumps up against the other, and Larry's just kind of there watching this happen. So one guy, this kind of a bigger guy, bigger muscly guy, bumps into this thinner guy, but that the thinner guy he's got kind of like this yellowish hue to his skin. He looks otherworldly in a sense compared to everybody else in the scene. And then he talks, and this is what I like about this. So like I said, the big guy bumps into the other guy, and Larry's like, "Hey, you gonna let that guy get away with that on Zick's turf?" Oh, so it's, I guess, some sort of gang type thing,
right?
But the guy says, "Do I look so foolish as to deny myself the satisfaction? Nay, what cheer, pig friend? Fancy meeting a sidewalk from which to be scraped?"
Right.
Sounds very Shakespearean.
You're right. Exactly right.
And then the big guy who has howls something. I think it just says howls around the head, the cap he's wearing. He says, "A baby lexicon. You feeling brave, Dayglow? By my honor, Scrag, I feel the sensational urge to alter your features into something more pleasing." And Larry goes, "Ooh, that's messed up."
Right. Right.
I love that scene, even though it's just like, why is this here? But
right.
I love it. I love it.
Right.
And it goes on too. I could just read this forever.
But that's part of it just being strange for strange, isn't it?
It is.
Because that whole conversation could have been very straight, right? Of 2 guys kind of debating whether or not they're going to roll each other or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So see, strange for strange shape does work.
I'm not saying it works. I'm just saying I enjoy it.
It works. Come on. If you enjoy it, that means it works.
I have layers, Travis.
Okay.
Layers.
Okay.
Let's see. Oh, and the last thing I want to mention about issue 2 is, like I said, Casey sees Dannyland, and then the next page is this, what I think of as a travel poster for negative space, which is where the how would you describe it? The dark entity that inhabits Larry Trainor's body. Is that
Sure?
a good enough description?
Sure. At this point, yeah.
The negative man aspect of Larry Trainor, right?
Right.
And so
right.
it says, visit the wonderful negative space. Howling winds, existential terrors, the black sun awaits.
Yes.
And it looks like Larry Trainor's there on top of these sculptures of him, and it wrapped up in his bandages, which is just a weird thing, just kind of thrown in there. But again, I like it. I like Larry Trainor too. I think that's my whole
I love
thing.
Larry. I have liked Larry in every incarnation of Doom Patrol. He's always one of my favorite characters.
Oh, there is this other thing. There's other character who is this black. It's a black entity of some sort, otherworldly, and he's looking for Larry Trainor and actually shows up in the issue to get Larry Trainor and take him somewhere, I think. But that character also references the Black Sun. So there is a connection there between what's going on in the issue and that weird travel poster thing.
Right.
Oh, we should talk about... No, never mind. I was going to say we should talk about the backstory, but that's just a preview of Cave Carson. We'll talk about the backstory stuff in the other titles.
Okay.
Is there anything else in issue 2 that you wanted to comment on?
I don't think so.
All right. Issue 3. This is where we get Casey's backstory. Big time.
I think it's very meta. Yeah.
Yeah. So Casey and Flex go into Dannyland, and Flex tells Casey, "You're part of a lot of things, Casey. I think you better take a ride on the boat." And it's like it's a wonderful, or it's a small world after all,
world.
right?
Yep.
Everything you know is inside, and so she goes into this ride. But let's see here. Yeah, you get. I just while we're here, I really like Dannyland. There's this walking globe with arms and legs and a hat, walking by, waving at Flex as they pass. You know, you have this pole with the signs where you would normally see like names of cities and how far away they are. You see those sometimes in cities,
right?
And this says anyway, far away, this way, that way, and then Bermuda at the bottom. I'm like, what?
Right. Right.
Just little things like that. I find endearing for Dannyland.
Yeah. Well, Dannyland and a lot of the stuff that's in this issue is like, Doom Patrol porn. I mean, because it's got all kinds of little stuff in the background that is just, little stuff that is shown up, cropped up in little Doom Patrol type things in it. Anyway.
Right. So I wanted to ask you about those. So yeah, we're going through Doomed World, because they're actually the puppet characters are singing "It's a Doomed World After All."
Right. Right.
And so you get the Grant Morrison and company's Doom Patrol characters. I recognize the characters. I don't remember their names for a couple of these characters. But at one point you could see Beast Boy back there, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, there, like I said, there's all kinds of stuff in the background as far as.
And you got the scissors. I know that was one set of antagonists that was in the run, right? And then you got the, is it the Dada stuff in that next panel? Right.
Yep. And then I can't remember what the guy's name was that basically has the chandelier floating around his head. That's
the candles, yeah.
That's
demon-looking guy.
That's a Rachel Pollack, design, stuff from that run that came right after Morrison's and stuff. Yeah. And all the eyeballs and the teeth, all that stuff is actually. And then, of course, it goes all meta comic book, right?
Yes. I love this scene. So Casey goes into Danny Books and Games store, and everything is Danny. So you got posters on the wall for these comic books. Danny Man, Uncanny Danny, Incredible Danny, Spider Dan, all this stuff. And then Casey just goes in. There's people in the store looking at stuff, and Casey just goes to this random box and pulls out this random comic. And it's called Danny Comics, and it's got this. Do you recognize this character that's shown on the cover here? Or does it matter?
I don't I don't know. I mean, to me, it seems like it's familiar, but I don't know what it would be.
Okay. But did you notice on the back cover it says "Only for you"?
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. And
Yeah.
then the next page is the splash page of the cover of that comic, and it says "New inside, your answer to everything, Casey."
I, I love what it costs too.
Yeah. 1 smile cent.
It costs 1 smile. Yep. Yep.
And then we get the secret origin essentially of Casey Brink, and we find out and told in a very retro style of art
Yes.
and color,
Yes.
which
Yeah,
I loved it.
They made it so it looks like the old newsprint paper. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not, but it's you could off in the borders in the bleed. It's got the little pieces of fiber and crap that are in those old books of that era. Just brilliantly done as far
Yeah.
as taking it to that level.
Yeah.
You know, the narration, captions are all designed like the old ones used to be back when we read comics way back then and whatnot. Yeah.
Well,
And
and that totally makes sense because Todd Klein's the letterer of this book, and he worked on many of those books
right.
that we read.
Right. And then that holy crap, that Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Oh, that great homage to that.
Oh, yes.
And so they incorporate that. This is what I love about this page. They incorporate the essentially
super
the
cool.
narrative captions as title or logo stuff,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
It's brilliantly done. Brilliantly
Yes.
done. I love
Yeah,
it.
the very top where it would be, DC, whatever, Maxi, blah blah blah. Instead, it says, I imagine at this point, and then the rest of the cap, is you're having some sort of existential crisis. Yeah, I mean, it's all perfect. It's just because it's all. I mean, even the little thing that would have the comics code in it is part of the narration of what's going on.
Yeah.
It's
Nick Darrington and Tamara Bonvillain have just, and Todd Klein for that matter, have just outdone themselves in these 3 or 4 pages. But you find out that Casey Brink is an aspect of Danny out in the real world.
Yep.
She was originally created as this superhero type character in Danny's world, but then she became basically more or less real, right? She's a real girl. And then I think pretty much after that, it comes down to the bad guys showing up and destroying the ambulance to try and get inside Danny.
I want to say one thing about
Okay.
that though. Towards the end of it, you get to the end of it. She's read this comic book and whatnot, and here's your moment you've been waiting for. That you've been complaining that she just rolls with everything.
Well, that's true.
She finishes the book, she throws it down, and goes, "That's it. I'm out of here." I mean, she finally has her moment of this is too much.
Right,
When
so-
she finds out that she's maybe not completely real, or that Danny is his mom and is her mom and dad, and and it's time to bring the Doom Patrol back. That's when she has her moment of finally she's reached the level of
Really, this is her limit. Brains inside robots, exploding trash cans, and
that's
roommates.
All, that's all normal.
And
That's not personal. This is personal. That's where she loses it. I just wanted to point out because
You're right.
complaining about the fact that she
You're
didn't.
right. So
that she
so
just rolled
Casey
everything.
Casey does have a limit to how much she can take. Okay.
Right.
Great.
Right.
That's great. I like that. Finally. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
poor Dan.
Yeah, poor Danny. So like I said, they're trying to destroy the ambulance, and they have this neurotic pain amplifier, and this floating. He's kind of like the leader of this group.
Yeah.
He looks kind of like one of the droids from Star Wars, really.
Yeah.
The ones that just-
Poorly drawn. Yeah.
Yeah,
As
yeah.
far as
and yeah, when I say like a droid in Star Wars, I don't mean. Don't go looking at Star Wars for inspiration. Just a small robot thing floating above the floor. Settings. Bypass settings 1 through 4 and begin at disorienting agony.
Yes.
that as if that's a setting.
right. Well, and this tell them how much he's getting off on them wrecking this ambulance. I mean, they're literally just taking sledgehammers and crap to
Yeah.
this ambulance.
Well,
I mean,
and-
the whole yes, release your fluids. I mean,
Yes,
just-
and Daddy's pissing himself essentially. I thought that was a nice scene.
Right.
Anyway, so yeah, Casey's trying to leave because she's had enough, and things are just falling apart around her because of the destruction of the ambulance in the real world. And then it ends with the bad guys taking Casey because she's I guess she's passed out from the trauma of the situation, and they go in to invade Danny.
Right.
But
to
not
get the meat.
To get the meat, but not before we get another Niles Calder interlude to end the issue.
Well, now he's not just Niles Calder.
Yes.
He's AKA the
says,
Chief.
Yeah, instead of saying what has Niles Calder been up to, it's AKA the Chief, and he's creating another robot man that looks like him.
Yep.
And there's actual dialogue in this one.
Yeah.
And with he creates this robot man. It's alive and
it's in his image.
It's in his image. Yeah, he's God. How are you feeling now? And then the robot hits him and gets off the table and leaves and says, "See you later, hand turkey."
Yep.
Okay, I have to admit, I did enjoy that one. Maybe because Niles Calder gets hit. I don't know.
And we do get more.
Oh, that's true. There's a couple more pages here.
You do get more of the Larry story too.
Yeah.
You get more of the whole how he was spliced together with with this negative force and all of that. And that negative element does catch up. That other negative manish looking thing does catch up to him at the end of it and teleports him off into nowhere. And I'm drawing a blank on the character's name. What's her face? The roommate.
Terry.
She's kind of in. Yeah.
Yeah. She's
shrugs shoulders and goes back to reading a book.
Good luck. She said, "Oh, Anne, thank you for bringing up the book. The book. Did you notice the book?
Yeah.
It's a book by Hannah Hoke.
Uh-huh.
Do you know who Hannah Hoke is?
No.
Hannah Hoke. I looked this up because I knew it'd have to be some sort of thing. Oh crap. Hannah Hoke is a Dada artist.
Nice.
It's a book about this Dada artist.
Uh-huh. Cool.
Yeah. Okay. So, like I said, when I first started reading this book, I'm like, I don't know, is this good? Is it really good, or is it just does it just seem good, right? And now that I've gotten to the third issue, I'm in. I really want to know what's going on. I like the characters, even though some of them annoy me. But that's also part of the fun is if a character annoys you. As long as it doesn't continue too much or go too far. But that which actually ties into one of these books that we'll talk about. Yeah, I like it. And now I'm really excited to go and read. Like I said, I got those 2 volumes of the Morrison and Company run, and I want to start reading those and seeing if there are connections or how many connections and what way are they connecting, just to get a sense of the overall sense of what Doom Patrol is and what Gerard Way wanted to accomplish with this book. Mm-hmm. So
the one thing is, I had the conversation a couple of times with people, is the book too smart for its own good? Some people have the same criticism, I think, of Grant Morrison too. Is he being too smarty pants for his own good? And I think if it all ties together and whatnot, I think it's great. I mean, I think it could all fall on its face because of the level of, the book has more. I guess I enjoy the book because it has more to it than just some simple pictures and a simple story and whatnot. The fact is that you can look at the characters in the comic, reading a book about something, or like that last book, you can look up that person's name and find out that it's not just a random book that she has in her hand. It's a book about something.
Yeah.
And to me, I love that. I love the fact that it's a comic that I can read it. I read it once. I enjoy it, what's there, and I'm like, wow, that was great. And then I go back and I read it again to kind of fine-tooth comb what all's really here, what's all going on in the background, what's all the little stuff that these guys have taken the time. And I don't know, and I think it's a toss-up in some of that stuff, how much of it is the artist is throwing in his own stuff and how much of it is Way going, I want this here.
Yeah.
Because we're listening to them talk a little bit I see on Twitter, which isn't a whole lot because they're busy guys. It sounds to me like it's a toss-up on some of that stuff as to who's throwing in what, who's really doing the the wink and the nod, kind of stuff there, kind of thing. I think the comic book shop largely, that's the artist. I think Way went, hey, everything's Danny, do what you want. The artist went to town, kind of stuff. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, I really like it. I love a comic that I don't know, maybe smart's not the right word to use for it, but because that makes it sound snotty in a way. But I like the fact that the comic is that rich, that it's got that much stuff going on. Now, how much of that whole meta comic stuff falls flat if you aren't a longtime reader? I don't know. I can't convince my 15-year-old to read single issues, even though this is her man writing this thing. So
What?
yeah, she doesn't. Yeah, that's a whole other conversation. She doesn't care for single issues. It's hard for him. Once I have a whole bunch of them gathered up, she may sit down and read them all together. If I buy it in trade, she'll read it. So I'll be curious to, at some point, one of the two, either I'm going to give her a whole stack of them and go read all these, or I'm going to give the trade, because I know she'll read it because of who has written it. But, how much of that works or doesn't work for her, I don't know. Because, for us, that Crisis on Infinite Earth cover and whatnot is awesome for a number of reasons.
Yeah.
But I don't know that works for somebody who's a new comic book reader.
Sure.
How well does that work or not work? So.
Yeah. So, I just to put a fine point on it, I think you and I both agree that Way has accomplished his goal for the Young Imprint line in general, specific to this book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I will, just for full disclosure, Travis, because I've read these books twice now. I read them when they first came out, and then I read them again just recently to prepare for our talk. Mm-hmm. And even going into them the second time, I was still like, I don't know about this book. And then I like I said, I read them that second time and taking notes on them, and that really helped to turn the corner for me, I guess, about the books. So yeah.
Well, I definitely think they're a read through more than once kind of a book. I really do. And I hate doing it because it's Doom Patrol and Grant Morrison, but and I'm not necessarily comparing the two writers, Way and Morrison, but Morrison for me is always a read through more than once. I read them as they're coming out, and after I get 4 or 5 issues, I go back and I read what's there again, because there's stuff that connects that I don't always catch the first time through and whatnot. And I don't have a problem with that. I'm happy to read comics that I want to read them more than once to get everything that's there. So
do you think that, well, let's talk about that for a second. Is Way mimicking Morrison, or is he building on Morrison and doing his own thing?
He's doing his own thing. I think he's doing his own thing. Parts of it are Morrison-like, but I think he's taking on other stuff too. So I'm only inclined to say that it's Morrison-like because that's the lazy man's way of explaining what the book is like.
Yeah.
And so of course, if you're having a conversation, or anybody who's listening to this who hasn't read a lot of Morrison, or specifically read the Doom Patrol Morrison, that comparison is meaningless, and I apologize. Because saying that doesn't really mean anything.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think that's the kind of the lazy version of what's going on. Hopefully, in our conversation, we point out some of the elements that are going on in and of itself. But I don't think he's mimicking Morrison. No.
Okay.
But he is referring to that stuff. But he's also referring to some of the 1960s stuff, and he's referring to some of the stuff that happens after Morrison. He's even got some of the stuff in the first issue of the Oolong Island and whatnot that, like I said, is the last run pre-52 Doom Patrol.
Okay.
That stuff in there.
So combining aspects of various runs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I knew we would talk a lot about Doom Patrol because it's Doom Patrol.
Yes.
But I don't want to short shrift the other books. But we're just in the interest of time, we may have to do that a little bit. But that's okay. Like I said, I figured we would do that. But let's move on to the next book, which in this case, I actually think that maybe Shay the Changing Girl came out before Cave Carson, but
yes.
I wanna do Cave next.
Okay.
If you don't mind.
No, that's cool.
So okay, Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye. This is by Jonathan Rivera, Gerard Way, Michael Avon Oming, Nick Filardi, and Clem Robbins. So this is co-written by Rivera and Way. Writers Gerard Way and John Rivera, as I said, along with artist Michael Avon Oming. This is from the press release. Take readers on a strange adventure with DC Comics' Silver Age character Cave Carson, his cybernetic eye, and his college-age daughter as they travel to dark places deep in the earth and mind. Mm-hmm. Okay, so Cave Carson, which I know the character. I've read a few things with him in it. I think he was part of the Forgotten Heroes that was in DC Comics Presents, that old Superman team-up book, because they do reference a couple times the fact that Cave Carson has met Superman, which I thought was kind of cute. But this is other than the fact that Cave Carson was this spelunker who went to other worlds, essentially down under, beneath the earth, or in the depths of the earth. I don't know all that much about the character. I didn't even know he had a cybernetic eye until this announcement. Well, about the character.
And he's wasn't he like a challenger of the unknown or something like that at some point, or hung with the challengers of the unknown?
Maybe they teamed up, but I don't think he was officially part of that group.
Okay.
I mean, it would make sense if they teamed up at some point.
I don't know a whole lot about the character either,
yeah.
Obviously, and I'm too lazy to look,
Well, I think this is one of those situations where it's okay not to know too much about the character, because it's been so long since Cave Carson has been in the...
Did he actually have a cybernetic eye back in the day, or is that a new element?
No, I think that was actually one of the things that drew Gerard Way to the character, was that there was some mention of him having a cybernetic eye, but no one ever explained it. No, he just had it. Yeah. And so he wanted to explore that and explore, pardon the pun, explore the depths of the character.
Right.
Sorry. Anyway, so I'm just going to run through some impressions of the issues.
Okay.
Real quick. The first issue starts off with Cave's wife having died. Mm-hmm. And so there's the funeral, and you find out that he's having a hard time with it, which you would expect. Sure. And he's having visions. He's having these weird visions, and he assumes it's, well, you could assume reading it that they're grief induced, but the way that they're presented, it seems like the eye has something to do with it too.
Right. That was my impression.
You also meet his daughter Chloe, and
mm-hmm.
Casey's roommate. We talked about how much of a jerk he is.
Sure.
Wow. Chloe's boyfriend is such a dick.
Yeah, right? It's like every father's nightmare for the daughter to bring home that.
Right?
So.
But the problem is Cave is he's such a, I mean, he loves his daughter, right. But he's such a hands-off, or not hands-off necessarily, but he's so wrapped up in himself that he doesn't really connect with his daughter. So the fact that his daughter's with his jerk doesn't seem to register too much with him, or he doesn't seem to care. But then again, there's this scene where you get this nice sense of the familial relationship, because Chloe is watching this old documentary that they did when she was younger, where Cave and his wife is teaching her karate or something.
Right.
Yeah, some sort of martial art thing. To help protect herself. And then you Cave is on camera in front of Chloe in the background, telling the camera, I find that children tend to try harder when awarded with some perceived rank, however meaningless, much like an adult.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
This guy
documentary.
is working, well, Cave himself is working on some other level than most human beings, right? Yeah. Not necessarily a better level, just a different level. Yeah, and then the boyfriend reacts, wow, it's a miracle you're not more screwed up, and she gives him a scant glance. But so you find out Cave Carson is also part of this organization called EBX,
Hmm.
And I looked through this twice, Travis, and I could not figure out what EBX stood for. Did you?
No.
Okay. Anyway, so it's not run by Cave. He's just kind of the face of the company, I guess. The tech wizard, the spiritual leader, I guess. But it's not run by him, and so there's this kind of smarmy looking guy, and you could tell he's smarmy because he has a ponytail, and it's not the '90s anymore. So plus he says some things that are not very favorable. Oh, and then at the end, I think, is it? Yes, Cave calls Wild Dog. Wild Dog shows up in
Right.
Cave Carson Has a Cybernetic Eye. What?
Right.
That was my reaction. My initial reaction is like, what the heck? Why is Wild Dog in this? That seems like a really weird combination, Cave Carson and Wild Dog. Don't you think? What are they doing with this?
What do they do? I just think they're cycling in some characters. I think it's them dipping back into some old characters that they decided for whatever reason that they wanted to use, and they decided that must be a good matchup, right? That's I think that's what I think of it.
I mean,
is that
it makes sense because when you go to issue was it issue 2 or 3? It's issue 2 because what's his name? The guy in charge of EBX.
Oh, I don't remember what his name is.
I don't either.
Smarmy guy, right?
Smarmy guy, yeah. Well, so he's up to something, and that's the thing about this book. Especially in comparison to Doom Patrol, this is a much more straightforward storytelling type of book. So it's really easy just to talk about the plot because there's not really. I don't with a few exceptions, Travis. There's not a lot going on visually that is interesting. I mean, that's not a knock against Oeming's art at all. Which, although now that I'm talking about it, I kind of thought that was a weird choice to have Oeming do this. So did they want Oeming to do this, or did Oeming want to do it, or?
Well, I don't know. I don't know how. I don't like we said at the beginning of the show. I don't know how they chose to combine.
Right.
How they got the creators that are went on. I don't know why you wouldn't want to use Oeming. Oeming's got a unique, different style, and part of these books is let's make sure our books look different from everybody else's. And Oeming would not be considered a traditional, what your superhero DC Marvel comics typically look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even this more expanded, we do have different artists out there. He clearly is, got his own way of doing stuff.
He has a very distinctive style, and like I said, this is not a knock at all or a criticism. It's given the, like I said, more of the straightforward plot-driven aspects of this work. I found Oeming to be an odd choice pairing those two aspects together. I like it. I think Oeming makes this a better book for being on it, as opposed to, say, a more traditional DC house style superhero type artist.
Right, for sure.
I don't think it would be as interesting if you didn't have Oeming on it. I just felt it was a weird combination given the two aspects.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
But
I agree with that. But I think I really enjoy his art.
Oh yeah. But there are some times in here. Is it in this one or the next issue? I think it's the next issue where he does it a couple times. Yeah. There's some trippy layouts in this book.
Yeah.
That Oeming takes advantage of, which I guess in this one too. So here's a 2-page spread in the latter part of the book where the EBX guys are chasing Chloe in a car, and Cave and Wild Dog show up in what was it, his little spelunking car thing?
Right.
What do you call it?
The mole-mobile. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. The mole car or whatever.
Right.
Whatever it is. So you got, it's not just straight panels on the page. It's kind of waving through as if you're driving a car on a windy road. That kind of stuff I just love. And the you got the panel where the interior of the car. It's a close up on Cave and Wild Dog, and that overlaps with the panel adjacent to it, where it's an exterior shot of them in the car. But but it's not a distinct. I mean, in a sense, it is because of the way that they drew the kind of lightning-looking lines, the green and yellow there. I don't know if you're looking at that page, Travis.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But it just, like I said, it kind of overlaps it, and it's not like I said, a distinct boundary or border going on here, and I like that. It's just like the action is flowing on the page. You know that you wouldn't normally see that with someone other than Oming, I guess.
Yeah.
So I really like that. I will say, so this is like I said, this is where Wild Dog shows why he's in the book, because he's just mowing down these guys.
Right. He's extremely violent. Yes.
Yeah, and I know that about the character, but it just, and Cave has no problem with it whatsoever.
Right.
It's almost like he's oblivious to the fact that this guy is committing mass murder for him, to protect his daughter. But, I guess that's the whole point, is that he's Wild Dog is helping to protect Cave's daughter.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much it for issue 2. One more thing. We talked about the boyfriend. So the EBX leader guy tells his goons to go collect Chloe as leverage against Cave, and then so they show up at Chloe's apartment, I guess, and one of the bad guys said, or one of the goons say, "Ms. Carson," and the boyfriend goes, "Right here." And what I did not get, Travis, the first time I read this, I thought he was just being kind of, I don't know, talking for her. But in fact, then I noticed this the second time I read it. He says "right here," and he's pointing his finger at his girlfriend. He has no idea what the heck's going on, and he's giving her up.
Right.
He's essentially pushing her towards them.
Yeah.
And then of course they shoot him to shut him up. And it's they're darts. They're just tranquilizer darts. But what a dick.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I guess that's the whole point. We're not supposed to like this guy. Exactly.
She's made bad choices. She's made those bad choices because of clearly their stellar relationship, right? I mean, I'm assuming that's what we're supposed to take out of that, that part of it.
Yeah.
Is my guess. Yeah. I like this comic. I think it's a fun comic.
Yeah.
It's not maybe as deep as, like Doom Patrol is, for instance. No. But it's a good romp.
Not
it's a
yet
good romp.
Anyway. Yeah, it's more of a action adventure comic as opposed to a trippy psychological journey that Doom Patrol is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Issue 3. Here's where I remember specifically. I mean, this is where Oming is just having lots of fun on the page, because you get it's like the 3rd or 4th page. Yeah. 4th and 5th page. That's what it is. Where it's the mole-mobile or whatever going through or digging through the earth is what I want to say, with this monster chasing them, and it's just winding through, and every once in a while there's these close-ups of the faces of the characters in these circular panels on the page, but it's just this weird it's just weird. It's just weird looking, but it's awesome. It looks really cool. And then the next page, it shows, again, it's presented as a splash page, but it's clearly showing panel progression. Like I said in about the previous issue, Oming is just really making use of the page and what he wants to show. So and to show movement, to show from getting from point A to point B on the page, which I just love it. So I think that's about it. Like I said, this book is really more plot driven than anything else so far.
Right.
What they do find though is that because Cave is going to Muldrug, which is this underground city from which his wife came.
Right.
She was
the queen.
Yeah. Was it queen or princess? But so they're going there to find out what's going on, because in one of the other issues, one of the Muldrugians showed up on Cave's doorstep,
Right.
And then this creature inside of the Muldrugian busted out, killing the Muldrugian, and attacked Cave. So they're heading there, and they find out that Muldrug has been decimated.
Yeah.
As he says, Muldrug is lost, and that is the end of issue 3.
So the bad guy in this, in a sense, is another corporation, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But with specific ties to the lead character, so that's
right.
an interesting difference.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
but
now that you mention
still
it,
still very very corporate driven, right? Very, I've got numbers to meet, or it seems to be the
or they have an opportunity like Danny Burgers, that if they make use of this, they will make lots of money.
Right.
Supposedly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Huh, I wonder, does Gerard Way have some anti-corporate leanings or something?
I think a lot of people do. So it's a relatively popular viewpoint. So
all right. So
yeah, I just thought it was interesting as far as that goes. So
what do you does Cave Carson meets the criteria that they set out as far as young animal?
I think so. I think it does. I don't know that it embraces the weird and whatnot as hard because it seems more straightforward in a lot of ways.
Well, I'd say there is a strangeness to it, but it's a very different strangeness than, say, to Doom Patrol. And it's not necessarily, we shouldn't necessarily compare the books, strictly speaking, but it's kind of hard not to, considering what this whole imprint set out to do.
Right. Well, and the same creators on both books.
Yeah. Well, Way's on both books. Yeah. Right.
Right. So, I think it does. I don't think it falls down. Do you?
Falls down? No. This is, out of all the books, Travis, this is the one where it's my least favorite. If I had to say that.
Same here.
Yeah. So
same here.
I enjoyed it. I kind of think of it as a mystery action book featuring this obscure DC character.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I read it also, and I wonder if they're going to explore kind of his almost psychosis with this eye.
Well, I certainly hope they continue. I mean, they do kind of
because they kind
touch
of flirt
on
with
it.
They flirt with the fact that, what is the eye really? Is he really? It's clearly attached to him, but is he attached to it? I mean, is it doing its own thing? Is it and then clearly,
yeah.
And then clearly he's They start to hint that he's possibly a broken man, but now so much stuff is happening that he's not going to have time to be that broken man anymore.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there's a lot there they can do more with. I don't know if they're taking this book with the, okay, we got to have lots of action and excitement right up front to hook people into that aspect of it before we explore before we start exploring more of the other stuff. Do you know what I mean? Because certainly we know that just as comic books as a general rule, it seems to be that if you don't really hit people with some excitement right at the very, very beginning, no one's going to read 2 issues in to kind of let stuff simmer to get the, to an action point. We got to have the action up front. So I don't know if that's what we're getting now. We're getting a lot of that, and we're going to start more heavily exploring those kind of things that were hinted at, or is it all going to just slowly be tiny little pieces amongst this big action? Because it really is an action book right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and considering the artists they have, I mean, Oming is very, of the stuff I've read, I mean, he does kind of action-y type stuff.
Right.
So maybe they're playing to that strength, and it could be just that Way working with Rivera, he wants to do something a little different than what he's doing on Doom Patrol.
Oh, sure.
To make it interesting for him.
Right.
Yeah, I like it. I'm really looking forward more to this examination of the relationship between what is essentially an estranged father from his daughter.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
And how whatever was happening with their mother's hometown, for lack of a better word, how that affects them, and what that means exactly. I am kind of curious about the longevity of this book.
Exactly.
Where are we going with this? What's going to happen? Is there enough here to keep people interested? I'm interested enough to keep with it, but
right. I'm not. Yeah, sure. I'm going to keep reading it too. But you're right, though, in the sense of kind of looking at it being plot driven. Having read a bunch of stuff, we can kind of forecast. Okay, so this place has been wrecked. They fix whatever. I mean, how long can they drag out the fight between the tug and pull between, Cave Carson and his personal life aspect and the corporation and the corporate goons, chasing them and whatever this, greater problem is. It's going to get fixed at some point, right? How far can they drag that out?
Yeah.
How far can they kick that down? And if they don't kick it down, they'll keep kicking it down the road and they fix it, then what's after that? Kind of thing for sure.
But, I guess you could say that about any comic book to a certain degree.
Sure.
But how rich is the world they've set up is the question.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Before we move on from Cave Carson, there are the backup stuff.
Stories. Yes.
So which are in, I mean, they have backup stuff in Shade also, as well. Right? Not Mother Panic also has backup stuff. Really short backup stuff, but
oh yeah, it does too. Right.
Yeah, you almost forget that one, but
so the Cave Carson one has like the Wonder Twin stuff in it, right?
Yeah. So there's a couple things in here. One is under the banner of Superpowers, and this is by Tom Scioli. And the first story is about the Wonder Twins.
Yes.
Which interesting, They've never been my favorite DC characters, but
no.
But
they're the gimmick from the TV show.
Yeah,
right. I mean,
right. This is a weird thing to me, Travis.
Yes.
Not just because of the characters, although we get sort of we get more about their backstory and their relationship as brother and sister, but and their world for that matter. But I mean, it's under the banner of Superpowers, which is that old toy line that they did that had to do with Darkseid and other Fourth World characters, Jack Kirby characters, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's so bizarre. And not only that, but what do you think of the art style of this? So it's really
it's very indie. I mean, this is like this is like what you'd find like in Brandon Graham's Island book, that anthology that he's been putting out through Image and stuff like that. It's very, and I don't mean that in any kind of a bad way. It's very, very much kind of I hate using cartoony. It's just very different than what standard corporate comics puts out as a comic book. I mean, it just is. I mean, it's just not the type of stuff you see. Even in like the Vertigo line, it's not the type of stuff you would typically.
It's very different. It is extremely different from the DC style. Yeah. It's almost like there's like this colored translucent layer over it it makes the coloring very muted.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I have a hard time reading it, Travis, just because of that. And also, and this is old man eyes time, but the print is so small.
Yeah.
So you get that like I said, that layer of color that's the best way I can describe it with this really tiny text. It makes it really hard to read.
Yeah. I mean, the other way I can best describe it is it's very zine-like. It is very self-published. I put together my own photocopies and stapled it together, and and I'm not, and if you read comics and sequential art, and this is me being snotty, beyond, the big corporations, if you go to a con or you're lucky enough to be someplace with a big enough city that actually has a truly independent rack, this is kind of the stuff you get. You get more of this kind of stuff. And And I get your struggles with that. I mean, you know, I'm just like you. I'm, looking to the bottom end of my bifocals, going, "Oh my gosh!" To read, but I really enjoyed it though. I mean,
Yeah.
because it's so different. It's so just kind of odd, and I don't know that I could read an entire book,
Oh God, no.
of this. I
Well, we only get 2 pages of the Wonder Twins thing.
right. Well,
So
three in issue 2. There's
right,
actually,
but
yeah,
here the third page of this backup is this 1 page, and it's under the banner of superpowers again, but it's this 1 page thing that happens in Gotham City involving Jim Gordon and Batgirl and the Joker.
yeah, it was weird.
That was with these really tiny panels.
Yeah,
It was odd.
I like it though.
It's
I
certainly
like
different.
because it's different. It just kind of it's a little something different. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't want a full book of it, but just having these little interstitials of things, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like.
And then in issue 2, we continue along with superpowers, but we get again it's
3 pages of the
but
Wonder
it's
Twins.
well.
Oh no,
no,
first page is Freddy, right?
it's Captain Marvel Jr.
Junior.
Not
right?
only that, it's here Sea Devils. That's what starts it. It's the Sea Devils, and I
Yeah.
think the Sea Devils. So it seems to be tying the Sea Devils dark side because they find this hieroglyphic thing that says anti-life forever.
Right.
And so that ties it again. That ties in back into the whole superpowers thing, which involved Darkseid. And then Captain Marvel Jr. is shown here being chained to, I guess, the Rock of Eternity. Yeah, not chained, nailed, Christ-like,
crucified, right?
to
Crucified,
the rock,
Mhm.
and all of the 7 enemies, the 7 deadliest sins of man or whatever, has broken free and does the will of the Dark God, which is Darkseid.
right.
And then at the very end, you get this one panel, and it says in the corner, the upper right or upper left corner, it says "Who's Who," and you kind of get this background of Thaddeus Braun, who was the original Miracle Man.
Uh-huh.
What he did during World War II, trying to he used his Miracle Circus train as an underground railroad for European war refugees. What?
Mhm.
And then you get 2 pages of the Wonder Twins continuing their story, and Gleek, poor Gleek. They try to reacclimate Gleek to his
Right.
his clan,
native.
and they reject him. So anyway, and then Travis, this is what I was so looking forward to talking to you about this one. So in issue number 3 of Cave Carson, more Wonder Twin stuff, and you get a very Kirby. There's a shot of Superman, or this Superman like doll thing that looks it's so Kirby.
Yes. Yes.
And then this character shows up that looks very much like a Kirby character, but that's not what I was really looking forward to. It's the Green Arrow 1 page.
Yes.
Did you ever wonder how Green Arrow came to be?
Right. It's like, no, that's not my name.
And well, yeah. So he's on this island just like normal.
Yep.
But then you find out that the island is actually Starro,
Yes.
the
That's
Conqueror.
awesome.
And he's talking about how Starro of the Elder Gods older than the old gods.
Yes.
And then Zine Arrow from Dimension Zero shows up to give Green Arrow his mission. String your bow to the vibration of the universe. Fight greed in all its forms.
Yes.
Use trick arrows.
Yes. Oh.
And so Green Arrow returns to do his Zine Arrow commanded, and then he gets tagged by the Daily Star as Green Arrow.
They don't hear him right. Yes.
News accounts misquoted me. The name Green Arrow stuck.
Right.
And
It's actually Zero.
And Zine Arrow from Dimension Zero is a Kirby character.
Yeah.
So that when Kirby was doing Green Arrow stuff, that was one of the things that he introduced into the character's mythos. So it's just bizarre stuff
It's
from Tom
awesome.
Scioli.
I mean, it's just fun that somebody out there, clearly has his own style, his own way of looking at everything and whatnot, but still clearly has to be a fan. Because
Yeah.
you have to be a fan to even begin to dig into that kind of stuff that way, and then play with it and just have kind of a crazy time. So
Oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah,
Such good stuff.
pretty funny.
All right. Let's take a break, Travis.
Okay.
And I will end the episode right there. Please join us next episode where Travis and I continue our discussion regarding DC's Young Animal Imprint, wherein we will discuss specifically the other 2 books in the series, which are Shade the Changing Girl and Mother Panic. If you would please go and subscribe to Travis's YouTube channel. Just go to youtube.com/user/oddfellowsthoughts, and I will have a link in the show notes. And you can also follow Travis on Twitter at _Gaunt_man. And again, I'll have a link in the show notes if you'd like to follow him. If you'd like to leave feedback about this particular episode and the comics that we discussed, you may do so by emailing me at longboxreview@gmail.com. You can also leave comments at the blog at longboxreview.com. Thanks for listening.